Hi guys, welcome back to my channel ArtsyPutsy with me Putsy, and this is the fourth video of my Finding Foundation week, and today I'm going to review the Maybelline Superstay multi-use foundation stick, this one right here. So if you want to see my first impression, review and the wear test, then just keep on watching. So like I said before, I'm going to review the Superstay foundation from Maybelline. This is the stick version. I have tried the original, the bottle one, Maybelline Superstay foundation, and I love that. I didn't really love that foundation on my first impression, but after I used them a couple of times, it instantly became one of my favorite foundation from the drugstore. Just like the name suggested, that foundation stayed on your face for a very long time, even though it's not very good at oil controlling, but maybe that's just because of my face is very oily. But I love that foundation. It looks good on the skin, it looks good for more than 6 hours. And when I saw that they come up with the stick version, I just know that I have to review this foundation because I just really want to see if this foundation as good as the original one, or maybe this is can be even better, who knows. But if you saw I think I mentioned this in my recent haul, I kind of mentioned my disappointment, or no, I'm a little bit bitter about the fact that this foundation only have, okay, this is quite a long tube, right? But it only has this much product. I mean, they only have 7 grams of foundation. That's a very little amount of foundation, and I didn't see that when I bought this. I was just a little bit shocked. I haven't watched any review of this foundation when I bought this, so I don't know what I'm getting myself into. But I just figured it can have a little bit more product, because that just means the product inside just like maybe around this much, and it has quite a long tube, and maybe they only have that much product because they have this sponge right here. But let's just be real here, who's gonna use this tiny little sponge for foundation? Yeah, maybe if you use this for contour or concealer, like it's the perfect size, but for foundation, I don't think anyone will use this. It's gonna take a very long time for you to blend your foundation with this size of sponge. So yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed for that, but other than that, I'm still pretty excited about this. So first, let me just read all the claims here on the website. They said that this is a Superstay multi-use foundation stick. This is a must-have essential that conceals, contours, highlights, and covers. All-in-one foundation stick features a cream to matte foundation and a precision pointed blender sponge that is perfect for applying cream foundation at home or touching up your look on the go. And based on the ingredients here, I think this is a silicone-based foundation, and this retailed for $11.99 or $12, and you can find it on several different stores, and they only have 16 different shades, which is not a great selection for foundation, but it's a drugstore foundation, so I can kind of let it slip a little bit. And it's Maybelline, they usually don't have a lot of different shades, but I mean 16 is not that bad. I would much prefer they have like 30 or at least 20. If they only have like 5, then that is a real problem. But let's just hope they can expand their shade range in the future. By the way, I bought the shade, where is it? I forgot this, what shade I mean. Oh, it's on the top. I bought the shade 220 Natural Beige, just like most of Maybelline foundation I have tried on the Maybelline Fit Me. I also use the Natural Beige, except for the original Superstay, because that sets down a little bit darker, so I mix the 128 Warm Nude and the Natural Beige. But before we continue on with the application of this foundation, just to inform you, I have a very oily skin. I have a lot of acne scars, a lot of redness, dark pigmentation, and I also have quite a very sensitive skin and acne prone skins. So yeah, I don't have the best skin here on YouTube, But I think that's also kind of great to test out foundation, so you can really see if they look good on textures or scars. And just like my any other foundation review, I'm not going to apply any setting spray or primer just because I really want to test out the foundation all by itself and see its full potential. Also, I'm going to apply the foundation half of my face with a damp beauty blender and the other half of my face with a brush. And I'm so sorry, both of these are very dirty. It looks like every time I'm going to do a review, my foundation brush and sponge always looks dirty, but I promise I clean them regularly, but it's just I already used them the day before, so it looks like this. But I clean my sponge and brushes. It's just, yeah, every time I want to make video, it's already dirty, so but yeah, now I'm just going to stop rambling and continue on with the application. By the way, this is my first time ever using a foundation stick, so I don't know how to, apply them and all of that, but let's just hope for the best. I hope, I don't know if I'm going to like foundation stick, but I'm just going to swipe them on my face, right? In Maybelline Fit Me 220 Natural Beige is like my perfect shade, so I think this one, it will also match me. I don't think this will set down like a lot darker. It feels very emollient and creamy, but it also feels a little bit thick. And by the way, like I said before, I didn't apply any primer, but I did my usual skincare routine and sunscreen. That's just because I always apply them no matter what, so yeah, I don't think it's gonna disturb the foundation all that much. But yeah, that's not really hard to blend, I think. But it's not the easiest one to blend either, I mean compared to a liquid foundation, but I think that's pretty normal, right? And like you see, I didn't really apply all that much. So that's one layer with a damp beauty blender. And the coverage, I should say, it's like a pretty good medium coverage. It covers a lot, but it's not as full as the original Superstay foundation, that's what I'm trying to say. And let's just see with a brush first before we maybe apply another layer. Yeah, I really don't like applying this foundation with the brush because it's just a lot harder to blend and it's gonna tug in my skin and it doesn't really sink into my skin and it looks a little bit cakey in some area, like this around my scars. And I also do think you best apply the foundation little by little, like one part at a time, so the foundation won't dry on your face before you blend them in. I mean, it's not that bad as you can see. It looks okay, but in terms of the application itself, it blends a little bit easier with a sponge. Yeah, the finish doesn't look that different except for this area. I feel like the foundation really won't stick into this area with a damp beauty blender. Usually this area still looks a little bit better than this side, but in this case I feel like on the scar area it actually covers a lot more with the brush. The sponge kind of take away the foundation on this part. The coverage looks pretty similar. Maybe this one is a tad fuller. This side looks a tiny bit cakey, but wait, but this actually looks pretty cakey with a sponge too. I don't know, maybe it's the foundation, not so much the application, because I just noticed this side looks not that great either. So I'm just going to apply a second layer and see if we can build up the coverage. I'm going to apply the second layer with a sponge and a brush again. I'm just going to apply little by little in area where I think still need some more coverage. I'm just going to blend a little bit more with a damp beauty blender all over my face. So that's a layer of foundation. Let's just go over it a little bit. The coverage, like I said before, it's not the most full coverage foundation. It's not as full as the original Superstay in my personal opinion, but it does covers a lot. I feel like this is a medium to full coverage. In terms of the finish, it is a very creamy foundation that sets down to a matte foundation. I feel like it's already sets down. It doesn't feel tacky whatsoever. I don't think this is the best foundation for acne scars or for those of you who have a lot of dry patches on your skin, a lot of acne, a lot of textures, because in some area it looks amazing, like around my forehead, but that's the least problematic area on my skin, so I don't really have trouble with foundation around my forehead anyway. In area where I have a lot of scars, like around here, it just seems like the foundation won't clinging on some parts, like it does cover a lot in this area, but then this area where I have a lot of acne scar, it still doesn't cover that part all that much. And in this area, I don't know if you can see that, but this usually doesn't happen with most foundation, but this just clinging onto this area, not in a good way, but this area looks pretty nice. My chin looks okay. It actually looks pretty good around my nose, but then around here where I have dry patches around here, it doesn't really look that great. It's just clinging onto the dry patches on my skin, as you can see. Around here, I feel like this is the most problematic area around my face. Some foundation looks better than this because the foundation just won't stick into this part. As you can see, it looks a lot more red than other areas on my face, and I do apply a little bit more foundation on those areas, and it still doesn't want to sit nicely, and it just won't cover that area. And then in this area, as you can see, that just doesn't look really nice, especially around here. I currently have a little bit of acne around here, so yeah, I don't think it will sit nicely on top of acne. The foundation just doesn't want to stick there, and it just, yeah, it looks a little bit crusty there. And if you want the foundation to have more fuller coverage, I suggest just apply a lot more when you first apply them and then blend them all at one go, rather than building up the foundation little by little and apply second layer, because as soon as you apply the first layer, it sets down a little bit, and then you try to apply the second layer, it just doesn't blend in really nicely. I mean, at the end it blends okay, but it just blends a little bit harder than I would like them to be. It sets down immediately quite fast, so you have to really blend them a little bit faster. And in terms of how it feels, it's not the most lightweight foundation I have ever tried. It doesn't feel heavy whatsoever, but it does feel like you have foundation on. I mean, the application itself, I like the side a lot better because it blends a little bit better, but after it sets down, I feel like this side looks a little bit better. I feel like in this distance, the foundation looks amazing. It looks pretty flawless. It kind of makes my pores looks a little bit smaller, and I like almost everything about this foundation. But if I look very closely, I can see the foundation just kind of sit on top of my skin and just clinging onto some area, doesn't want to blend in. And I also think if you have a deeper smile line and if you have a fine line under your eyes, it can kind of clinging onto those area, because it already started clinging onto this line I have here under my eyes a little bit, so maybe it can settle onto your lines a little bit faster than other foundation. I mean, I don't know, I don't have a very deep smile line, so I can't really vouch for that. So let's just see. I'm just going to finish up the rest of my makeup now and see how other products blend on top of this foundation, and I'm going to come back in a little bit. So I finished up the rest of my makeup, and it's now currently 11:26, but I remember the first time I applied the foundation, it was around 9:30, I think. So the foundation itself has been on my face for almost 2 hours, and for 2 hours I have to say I like it a lot more than the first application. But let's just talk about the application for a second. The bronzer, the blush, and the highlight blends quite easily on the skin. The concealer itself blends really easy on top of the foundation, so it's safe to say the foundation doesn't blend really nicely on top of the foundation, but the concealer blends really nicely on top of it. So yeah, I do think the foundation is not meant to be applied in layers, but I noticed as I applied my powder, it can kind of take away the foundation a little bit in some area, and after the foundation completely sets down, I start to see that the foundation just looks a little bit uneven in some area and doesn't look completely smooth and can look a little bit dry and patchy in some areas. After I leave them for about 2 hours and the oil of my skin start to peek through, I feel like it makes the foundation blend into my skin a lot better now, and my skin looks, I don't know, I like the finish of this foundation a lot more now than the first initial application. But I do not think this foundation looks good on top of dry patches, so maybe if you have dry skin you won't really like this foundation because it looks a little bit patchy and crusty around my nose. After I apply powder and highlights, I don't know, it just looks a little bit weird on my dry area. But let's just see in a few hours if this can hold off the oiliness of my skin a lot better than the original Superstay, or if it's not, or let's just see the lasting power, how it looks at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm just going to leave my life for a little bit and I'm going to be back in, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 hours to give you my final thoughts. So I'm back and it's currently 19:35. The foundation has been on my face for about 10 hours now. I'm so sorry for all the mess back there. I've been editing all day. I haven't finished anything yet, but I'm so tired right now and I just really want to take my foundation off. It's getting to the point where I really cannot stand the feeling of this foundation. I'm not gonna lie, it started to feel a little bit heavy. For 10 hours, this is honestly not the worst foundation in terms of oil controlling, and the foundation is still pretty intact, not disappearing whatsoever. In terms of lasting power and oil controlling, I feel like this is very similar to the original Superstay foundation, but in terms of the finish, I still think the original Superstay performs a little bit better. That one blends a lot easier, and if you look from this distance, I feel like the foundation has a pretty good finish. But if you look very closely to my skin, like I can see all these dots on my face, these tiny little dots of foundation. It's not completely smooth, especially around here, and around my nose, which is kind of weird because as usually in this part, foundation usually looks just completely flawless on my skin. The bronzer and blush start to disappear, but it's still pretty much there. The highlight is still very intense and strong on my cheekbone there. A little bit disappear in my chin and around my nose, but other than that, the foundation is pretty much still there. It also starts to disappear around where I have a lot of textures, also here, but other than those areas, the foundation is pretty much still there. It looks very oily and a little bit greasy and a little bit cakey, but I feel like for 10 hours this is pretty much normal to me, and this is not the worst because I've tried another foundation that looks a lot worse than this. In 5 hours mark, it still looks pretty good. After around 6 to 8 hours, the foundation start to feel a little bit heavy, and now I really think I cannot use this foundation a lot longer. It started to feel a little bit heavy with the oiliness and everything, even though it doesn't look the worst. And this foundation doesn't oxidize at all in my opinion, because it's pretty much still looks the same since the first time I applied them. So but let's just talk about the flashbacks for a second. I'm pretty sure you've already seen the picture that I've shown you a few moments ago, and you can tell by the picture that it has really bad flashbacks. My face looks completely white, bouncing off lights like crazy, and in my opinion this is one of the worst foundation in my collection that I've tried so far in terms of the flashbacks. So if you want to use this foundation, don't use it for flash photography. The original Superstay foundation do have a little bit of flashbacks and have a little bit of white cast, but it's not as bad as this one. This is way worse than the original Superstay in terms of flashbacks. So my conclusion is, for packaging, we only get a little bit amount of foundation, and I don't really like the sponge. So for an overall packaging, I will only give this foundation a B- or maybe even a C+. So for application, I will give this a B- as well. Like I said before, it's a little bit harder to blend. You cannot really layer this foundation, and it's a little bit harder to build up. I will give the finish a B- as well. It looks good in some areas, but it also looks really bad in some areas. It's a little bit inconsistent. For lasting power, I will give this foundation an A-. It's really good. It lasts for a very long time, even though in some areas it started to disappear a little bit, which is why I cannot give this a perfect score. And for oil controlling, I do think this is one of the best. I will give the oil controlling an A. This for 10 hours, honestly not the worst ever. This is actually one of the best. For the price, it has a pretty bad score just because, I don't know, it's very affordable, but you only get a little bit amount of product. And in terms of how the actual foundation feels on my face, it's not very heavy, it's not very lightweight either, and it doesn't feel itchy whatsoever. It's very comfortable, even though you can feel like you have foundation on your face, but it's still pretty comfortable. So for that, I give that aspects a B+. So in conclusion, I think that's overall a B, a solid B, or maybe a B- in my opinion. This is not the worst foundation by any means, but if I have to compare them with the original Superstay, I don't see a point why you would want to buy this one instead of the original Superstay. It's very easy because it's a stick foundation, but that one blends a lot easier and a lot faster in my opinion. You know, there's a lot of pros, but then there's also a lot of cons, but it's just kind of balance everything out. Yeah, this is not the worst foundation, but honestly just get the original Superstay. So that concludes this video. I think that's it. That's everything I needed to say for this video, but yeah, I hope this video can help you. I hope you find this video helpful or entertaining. I don't know, I don't think it's entertaining, but if you do like this video or if you find this video somewhat helpful, then don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to my channel as well. The subscribe button is around here down below. Every single shade in every single foundation I have tried so far, everything will be listed down below, so make sure to check that out. And lastly, I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope I can see you in my next video. Bye guys. And today I'm going to review, before we continue, before we what was I going to say? What was that? The foundation has been on my face for about The foundation has been on my face for about 10 years. What? 10 years? So the foundation